Hi there guys. In this video we're going to have a look at a Mossberg 185K-A bolt action 20 gauge shotgun. And this shotgun is chambered for the 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge shell. There's a few old Imperial shells. You don't see many 20 gauge shells in orange. Mostly they're yellow today, the hulls, for the most part. This particular shotgun was manufactured sometime between the late 1940s and the mid 1950s. It's sort of the second generation of Mossberg's bolt action shotgun line. And bolt action shotguns were fairly popular for a period after the Second World War up until sort of the 1970s. They kind of lost their appeal because the price of pump action shotguns came down and the market for shotguns was pretty well saturated by that point in time. This thing has a 26-inch barrel. We have a Mossberg Select choke, which is a collet style adjustable choke. That's adjustable from cylinder all the way up to full choke, and you can kind of stop anywhere in between. Not a bad looking stock on these shotguns. You can see we've got a black plastic butt plate held on with a couple of Phillips screws. And it's got a little bit of a Monte Carlo comb, this stock, which is very comfortable actually. Got a pistol grip and the trademark Mossberg combined trigger guard and grip. Kind of gives you some finger grooves there. This one's in good shape. They sometimes deteriorate these plastic trigger guards, but this one's still in good condition. You'll sometimes find these sort of shrunken out of the grooves. The stock is of walnut, and luckily it was oil finished and not varnished, so it's kind of nice to see an oil finished stock, especially when you're dealing with walnut. Not a bad looking hunk of walnut. And we've got a little bit of a, I guess you'd call that a schnabel style of forend. Anyway, the stock is quite comfortable. It's sort of adult sized and handles pretty well. Alright, here's a close-up of the barrel markings. OF Mossberg and Sons Incorporated, New Haven, Connecticut, USA. Model 185K-A, 20 gauge, 2 3/4 inch. So the safety catch on these guns is rather conveniently located at the very back of the receiver, and it's a lever which is underneath, basically underneath the receiver. And you can see there's two little plastic buttons. One marked F for fire and one marked S, of course, for safe. The safety won't go on when the shotgun is not cocked. In this case, the striker is ahead, so we'll open the bolt up and close it to cock the striker. And when the striker's cocked, you might be able to see it. It's kind of faint, but there is actually a red line showing around here of paint to show that the striker is back. So this is a cock-on opening style of bolt. And with the bolt cocked, safety catch can be applied by pushing it over. You can hear it quite audibly snaps on and off, and that safety catch blocks the trigger. It does not actually lock the striker, it just blocks the trigger. So with it in the safe position there, the trigger is blocked and the gun shouldn't fire. Put it over to the fire position and the striker can fire or follow when you pull the trigger. So let's have a look at the bolt in this gun. It's pretty easy to remove. Simply open the bolt up, pull the trigger, and while you keep the trigger pulled, just pull the bolt right out to the back, and it comes right out. So this is a single locking lug design, which is plenty strong for a shotgun. And the locking lug is actually the root of the bolt handle. You can see this surface at the back of the bolt is actually what locks the shotgun shut. And if you compare that to lots of other common shotguns like a Remington 870 or a Mossberg 500 or something of that nature, there's about the same amount of locking surface, perhaps even a little bit more. And this lock actually goes straight through the bolt, and you can see this round portion on the other side. It is actually goes completely through the bolt, and of course it has a hole through the middle of it for the firing pin to go through, but pretty securely attached. You can see where it has been peened over to retain it. I expect it's probably threaded into the bolt body itself, the bolt handle, and then peened to retain it. And you can see it's a fairly straightforward bolt. We've got firing pin hole up front here. We've got dual extractors. One of these extractors is actually more of a guide than an extractor. The left-hand one pretty much just holds the shell in place. The right-hand one actually grabs a hold of it to extract it. So the front portion of the bolt does not rotate, so when you move the back of the bolt to up and down to lock and unlock, the forward portion stays in the same orientation. At the back of the bolt we've got our striker, and this is what the sear connects to. The sear would grab a hold of the striker here and hold that back until you pull the trigger, in which case it lets the bolt go ahead. At the rear of the bolt you can see the camming surface and the pin which cams the striker back when you open the bolt up. The pin rides up that cam track to pull the striker back into firing position. So pretty straightforward bolt. Most bolt action shotguns are simple, of course. That was one of their main claims to fame: simplicity and economy. So let's have a look at the receiver itself. So the receiver is a simple thing as well. It's basically a piece of seamless steel tubing. You can see it starts up here and runs right to the back here, and it's got a slot cut in it for the bolt handle to clear. The root of the bolt handle comes down and locks into this surface to act as a locking lug. We've got an ejection port milled in the top and another one in the bottom for the magazine to go up into. There's the magazine. And if you look down into the back, you can see this is the sear right here that moves up and down. The trigger interacts with the striker surface by means of the sear. So this portion here of the bolt is held back by the sear down here, and when you pull the trigger, that lets the striker go ahead. And we get a little better look at the safety catch from that angle. Actually, you can see right down into the mechanism there. You can see the safety catch moving side to side to block or unblock the trigger. So from the bottom, not much going on there either. We've got basically a plate to reinforce the bottom of the magazine well. We've got our plastic trigger guard, and the magazine catch is this lever at the back. The magazine itself slides over this bar, and that's what retains it in place. The bar interacts with this slot on the back of the magazine. We've got a 2-shot magazine, which is kind of interesting. It's got these little tabs on it so you can get a hold of it to pull it out. Magazines go in and out pretty straightforward. Put them in, so they lock. Like I said, you got those little tabs, so when you want to pull the magazine out, you can actually pull back on the lever there and just pull those little tabs to get the magazine out of the way. Magazines are pretty easy to disassemble. You just push the follower down, tilt it back, and there you go. Easy to clean. Take the spring out, and you've got the empty box. You can make sure you clean all the crap that eventually falls into these things out of the way. Nice big beefy leaf spring. Pretty good magazine. Seems to work quite well. The only issue with these magazines is that they sometimes get lost. For one reason or another, people tend to store magazines separately from the guns, and they will frequently get misplaced, and they're not that easy to replace anymore because, of course, these haven't been manufactured in a long time. So there's our field stripped Mossberg. You don't really have to take the shotgun down much more than this to do your regular maintenance. You can clean the barrel, you can clean the bolt, you can oil it down, you can clean the magazine, take the spring out, clean the inside of that. Occasionally you're going to want to take the action out of the stock. You've got a big screw here which you can remove, and the barreled action just pulls straight up out of the stock. So here's a close-up of the muzzle end of the gun, and you can see the select choke. This is a sliding collar over a collet. Basically, the collet is a bunch of fingers which can be constricted or relaxed to adjust the amount of choke that is given by the system. And you can see it's got several markings on it here. We've got improved cylinder, modified, and full. So by screwing the collar in, you can see that it covers up these markings. And screwed into there, that's about modified. Screwed pretty much all the way in is full choke right there. And of course, when you unscrew it, you get less and less choke. Cylinder, well, improved cylinder, and I would assume let out a little further you would actually get cylinder bore. We've also got some compensator slots that have been milled into the barrel here. You can see right through the barrel there actually, so we've got those 5 cuts on each side of the barrel. And we've also got a bead front sight. One thing about this sight, it's rather low, and with the bulk of the compensator in front of it, it does not stand out terribly well, so it's not exactly the best front sight. It could have used a bit higher one. Alright, give you a close-up look at some of the other markings on the choke. You can see it says Select Choke, and it is the Model 20 and patent pending. So those are some other markings that are on those chokes. You can see the choke adjusting collar is knurled. Let you get a good grip on it to turn the choke around to adjust it. Let's have a closer look at the adjustable choke. This is the choke set to the full choke position. The collet is completely closed down. You can see the gap between the various fingers of the choke is pretty much gone. And as we unscrew this, let's go to the modified position here. With it to the modified position, you can see that the fingers of the collet are starting to open up. And if we continue to unscrew it back to the improved cylinder position, the collets are opened up even more. You can see the collar, the adjusting collar has moved ahead. So as the collar moves ahead, it opens up the choke.